Hi everyone! Today I'm going to share with you what to plant in February. And there's something you can plant no matter where you live right now. I'm also going to be sharing what works and what doesn't for each vegetable so that you can get off to a really good start for your spring garden. This video is going to be divided into 3 different sections. Things that you can either direct sow or plant inside, and third, things that you definitely want to just start from seed indoors right now. It's going to be a really fun video and very informative so you can get off to a really good start for your spring garden. Let's jump in. The key to planting in February is knowing when that last frost date is in your area. That's what determines when you're going to plant which vegetable. What doesn't work is just going outside when your ground is frozen, having no idea when that last frost date is, and planting just because you want to get outside. That is just not going to work. So you got to know that last frost date. You can find this out by Googling it or by heading over to the CaliChem Garden Planner. By putting in your zip code the seeds that you want to plant, it'll give you a whole list of what you can start indoors and what you can start outdoors right now. Now the first category we're going to cover is what to direct seed right now. If you're in a southern climate, what works right now is to direct seed vegetables that are root vegetables like carrots and beets. Us southern gardeners don't get frost. If we do, it's very little frost, and those vegetables do very well right now. What doesn't work with root vegetables is starting them from seed indoors because they don't like to have their roots disturbed. So when they grow to transplant size and you go to plant them outside, they die or they don't make it. What does work with root vegetables is to direct seed them right in garden beds or containers. What works best for me is to direct seed them right in containers. The soil is nice and loose, which allows for no obstructions and allows the roots to grow very easily. Now, northern gardeners, if your ground is frozen, it's not going to work to direct seed carrots and beets right now. But what does work is as soon as the soil thaws, you can get out there and work the soil with your hands. You can direct seed these veggies. So the first one that I'm going to start with are carrots. Now, southern gardeners can direct seed carrots even in the fall when the weather cools off. They're a cool weather vegetable. They like temperatures between about 50 degrees and 75 degrees. So it works to plant them in cooler temperatures. Here I've got some gorgeous carrots in here. I'm going to actually pull one out. These are the rainbow carrots from my carrot seed collection. They are just absolutely beautiful. And they also work very well in containers. That's an interesting looking carrot. So let me get in here and show you how to direct seed carrots. So with carrots, what I like to do is plant them in a container. That way there's no obstruction for the roots, and I like to use a nice loose potting mix. I'm using Master Nursery Bumper Crop Blend this year, a potting mix that's chock full of worm castings, bat guano, and it's just an amazing soil that really holds the water retention well. All you have to do is just take a little pinch of carrots, and these are the rainbow carrots from my carrot seed collection, and just lightly sprinkle them over the surface of the soil. Now you don't have to worry too much about spacing because we're going to go back and thin them as they grow, and then very, very lightly cover them with soil, kind of tamp them down, give them a nice little mist of water either from a spray bottle or from the mister setting on your hose. Now, very, very important with carrots. What doesn't work with carrots is letting the soil dry out while they germinate. They've got to have nice moist soil. So what I do to keep the soil moist, what really works well for me, is to cover them with a piece of shade cloth and then just kind of tuck it in under the container. This helps keep the moisture in so they don't dry out while they're germinating. Do make sure you check your carrots every day because if that soil dries out, they're going to take a really, really long time to germinate, or they won't germinate at all. Then once they germinate and grow a couple of inches tall, you can actually take some little nail scissors and go in and thin them out so they're spaced about 2 inches apart, and then continue thinning them as they grow. Then about 60 to 90 days, you're going to have some big, beautiful carrots like these gorgeous ones in my 5-gallon smart pot here. Next up for February are beets. Got some gorgeous beets growing here in my 5-gallon smart pot. They do love containers as well because that way the roots have nice loose soil to grow in. But one of the problems with beets is you have to plant them when the weather is cool. They're a cool weather vegetable. If you plant them too late in the season, they're not going to grow, or you're just going to get lots of leaves and not nice beet roots. So key is timing really for beets. Southern gardeners, get them planted now while the weather's still cool. That way you've got about 8 weeks or so before the weather warms up and you have time to get a harvest. You northern gardeners, don't plant them outside outside. The ground is probably still frozen solid, but as soon as you can work the soil, especially for you kind of mid-zone gardeners, get out there and as soon as your soil is nice and loose, direct seed your beet seeds. Another issue with beets can be slow germination. The pods you can see have a really hard outer shell, and sometimes it takes them a bit to germinate. So to help with this, I like to soak my seeds overnight in some warm water just to loosen that hard outer shell, and it really does help to speed germination. Space your beet seeds just a couple of inches apart. There's actually lots of tiny little seeds here in this little pod, so by spacing them apart, you don't have too many beets coming up all at once. Don't worry about it if you space them too close together. Just like carrots, you can get in there and thin them with your little scissors until they're spaced about 2 inches apart. Now you do want to keep the soil moist while they're germinating, but I really don't cover them with shade cloth to keep that moisture in. They're not quite as sensitive as carrots are to that, but they can take a few weeks to germinate. In about 8 to 10 weeks, you're going to have a beautiful beet harvest like I am right now. Third vegetable to direct seed in your garden in February is one of my personal favorites, arugula. Now there's really no need to start seeds inside for arugula because it grows so easily outside. It's one of the very easiest greens to grow and definitely one of my personal favorites. We probably have it every day in scrambled eggs, on sandwiches, sauteed in stir fries. The sky is the limit with arugula. Now you southern gardeners, plant arugula like crazy right now. It loves the cool temperatures. But the problem with arugula is it's sensitive to heat. So when the temperatures get over 75, it bolts or shoots up that tall stalk from the middle and flowers and goes to seed, and the flavor really does change at that point. So the key to arugula is get it planted while it's still cool. Southern gardeners go crazy with it in February like I'm going to do. Mid to northern gardeners, again, wait till you can work your soil and then plant it like crazy even before your last frost date. It only takes about a month to grow in between 50 to 75 degree temperatures. You're going to be harvesting it like crazy in the early spring. So the key is plant it early enough while it's still cool, before the temperatures get hot, so you can get a harvest before the hot weather hits. So easy to plant arugula, guys. I have this little strip of soil here along my fence, and this is where I grow my arugula. A little tiny spot there at the top, a little bare patch of soil. I'm just going to sprinkle these seeds down. These are from my spring garden seed collection. All this month, all my seed collections, in fact, site-wide, is 30% off with the code DIRTY30. So make sure you grab your seeds and get them started for spring. So just sprinkle down your arugula. I don't worry about spacing because I come in here and I harvest it so often that it's not a problem. I like to harvest it at the baby size for the most tenderness. So sprinkle your seeds down. I kind of like to put them in my hand and just kind of broadcast them over the soil where they fall through the little cracks in your fingers, and then cover them lightly with soil. Keep them moist and you'll be harvesting delicious arugula in about a month. It's just such a tasty green to grow. The next category of vegetables are those that you can either direct seed right out in your garden bed or start from seed indoors. And the first one in that category are peas. Now, a lot of people think that you can't start peas from seed indoors, but you actually can. I've done it many a time. Their roots do tend to be just a little bit sensitive to transplanting, but as long as you're careful when you transplant them and don't let them grow too long inside, and keep the timing about right for that, they're going to do just fine. Now for peas, the timing is all important because the problem with them are they're cool weather vegetables, very heat sensitive, so you want to get them planted outside about 6 to 8 weeks before the weather gets warm, or they're going to dry it from the bottom and you're not going to get a good harvest. So you southern gardeners, get them direct seeded outside right now. You northern gardeners, don't think I've left you out. Again, you can plant these seeds as soon as you can work the soil when it thaws a little bit, but at the same time, about 4 weeks before your last frost date, get some seeds started inside. Very easy to do that. Plant them in your 6-packs. The seeds are quite a bit larger, so you want to plant them about 1/4 inch deep. Cover them with soil, keep them moist, put them under grow lights. In temperatures of about 60 to 70, 75 degrees, they're going to pop up real quick, germinate just in a couple of days. And once they've been growing indoors about 4 weeks, even if you're a few weeks out from your frost date, because they're frost tolerant, you can then plant your full-size transplants out in the garden. Now let me show you some I've got grown right over here in our little mini elevated raised bed. This raised bed is a 2x4 before raised bed. You can see we still have all of our footers we pulled out from our deck project. But these are gorgeous purple peas from my spring garden seed collection. There's different types of peas you can plant. Now, I like these. They're a flat potted pea. They're called royal snow peas. Absolutely delicious, very tender. Oftentimes they never make it inside, but you can eat them pod and all. Another one of my favorites is this one right here. It's the Oregon sugar pod pea, a really beautiful yellow pea here. Again, you can eat it pod and all, or you can also plant shelling peas, which you then shell and eat just the peas. The pods tend to be just a little bit stringy and not that great for eating. So plant peas of different varieties, different kinds, and you're sure to have a great variety to harvest before the weather gets too warm. Now, peas do need a trellis. They are a vining vegetable. So when I plant them outside, I'll plant them next to something like my ladder mesh trellis right here. Just poke them down into the soil, about 1/4 inch deep, keep them watered, and as long as the temperatures don't get too hot, they're going to grow beautifully over the trellis, and I'll get a harvest in about 6 to 8 weeks. Next vegetable that you can either direct seed or start from seed indoors is lettuce and greens. Now, one of my favorite varieties is right here. It's this gorgeous Prizehead lettuce. There's so many beautiful varieties of lettuce you can grow. In Southern Gardeners, you want to direct seed them in your garden beds right now. Another couple of my favorite varieties are this beautiful Oakleaf lettuce. This is such a sturdy variety, and here it holds up very well to dressings when you make your salads. The red salad bowl, you really can't go wrong with that. So I always love to grow different colors, different varieties, different textures, so you just have some good varieties in your salads. Now, the only problem with lettuce is it's not heat tolerant. So you do need to grow it in the cooler temperatures. Southern Gardeners, the key is to direct seed it now, again, before the weather gets too warm, so you can get harvest in before the weather gets over 75 degrees. So to direct seed lettuce, super easy. Want a little bare spot of soil like I have here in my raised bed. I'm kind of pulling apart the mulch because lettuce is such a small seed, so it really becomes a problem if you cover it too heavily, and it does like light to germinate. So I'm just going to sprinkle some seeds in. This is the Prizehead. It's in my spring garden seed collection. Kind of lightly sprinkle it in like this. Take a pinch between your finger. You don't even need to cover it, or if you are going to cover it, just to protect it from the birds, just cover it very, very lightly, because if you plant it too deep, it's not going to germinate. Just kind of tamp it down. Keep the soil moist. Now, if you're a northern gardener and it's too cold to plant outside, what you can do is start from seed indoors only about 4 weeks before your last frost date, or before you're going to get them planted outside. So you plant it in your 6-packs pretty much the same way you'd plant it in your ground. Pinch between your thumb and forefinger, lightly sprinkle. Kind of tamp it down just so it has really good contact with the soil. Give it a nice little spray. You do want to keep it moist while it's germinating. Put it under your grow lights. Now, a big problem with lettuce is that it can get leggy, either because it's too far away from the grow lights or because it's too warm where you're growing it. So grow it in a spot in your house where it's between 60 and 75 degrees. It'll germinate within just a couple of days, and then put it no more than 2 to 3 inches away from your grow light so it doesn't have to reach for the light. That way the stems stay nice and sturdy and don't get thin and leggy, and then your seedlings will just flop over. Now, what doesn't work for lettuce is hot temperature. So once it gets over 75, what does work and what really helps keep it cooler is shade cloth. So I know a lot of you southern gardeners might already be heading into some warm days. So just take a piece of shade cloth, drape it over your lettuce. It will keep it about 10 degrees cooler under the shade cloth. Alternately, you can grow some heat tolerant greens like chard and kale, which take the heat really, really well. Next up for February that you can either direct seed or start from seed indoors is parsley and cilantro, 2 of my favorite herbs. Now, what doesn't work for parsley and cilantro is to try and plant them in warm weather. They like the cool weather. Once warm weather hits and it gets above 75 or 80, they bolt, flower, and go to seed, changes the flavor, and then you don't have any parsley and cilantro. The other problem with them is they're very slow to germinate. So you can do a couple of things to speed up germination. Number one, with cilantro, it has a hard outer shell, so you can crush those seeds with a rolling pin or with a brick, and then sprinkle the crushed seeds directly in your garden beds or in your containers. With parsley, what you can do is soak the seeds in a jar of warm water overnight to soften them, and this really does help speed up germination. Start them now in February. The sky's the limit. Go crazy planting them outside. Northern gardeners, start them indoors about 6 weeks before your last frost date. And again, speed up germination in the ways I just told you. Poke the seeds into the soil of a 6-pack, cover them up, and then be patient. They're going to take about 2 weeks to germinate, so don't give up on them, but do make sure you spray the soil, keep them nice and moist till they germinate about 2 to 3 inches away from your grow lights. Once your last frost date is passed, you can pop your full-size transplants outside in your containers or garden beds and enjoy your delicious parsley and cilantro to flavor your favorite dishes. Now we're at that category of seeds that you really do need to start from seed indoors. That's what works for tomatoes, peppers, and eggplant. Southern gardeners, start them from seed indoors right now. Northern gardeners, where you've still got some months of cold weather, find out your last frost date, again, a very important date, and then count backwards about 8 to 10 weeks. That's what works best for tomatoes, peppers, and eggplant. They're warm weather loving vegetables, so they're not going to start well in cold temperatures. Definitely not start well outside in February. I did a video on mistakes not to make when you're starting tomatoes, peppers, and eggplant. So go back and watch that video for all the details on how to get these started inside. What doesn't work for those warm weather loving vegetables is to just plant them in your seed starting trays and then pop them under grow lights. For most of us at this time of the year, our houses are just not warm enough. What does work though is to start them from seed and then put your whole entire seedling tray on a heat mat under your grow lights. That warms them up to the ideal germinating temperature of between 70 and 85 degrees, and then they're going to have no problem germinating. You'll be able to grow full-size transplants in about 8 to 10 weeks. And then you want to plant them outside after your last frost date. Once the soil temperature has warmed up a little bit, they love warm soil, and that's what's going to work best for them. Next veggie you really have to plant in February are onions. Onions are a cool weather vegetable, but they do take quite a long time to bulb up. So what doesn't work for onions is if you plant them late in the season, like May or June, and expect to get great big huge onions by the end of the summer. It's just not going to work. They're one of the earliest vegetables you can start from seed. So what works for onions is to start them really early, in February, even earlier if you live in a southern climate. You can start them from seed indoors about 12 to 14 weeks before your last frost date, and even get them planted outside in the ground from transplants a couple of weeks before your last frost date. They're cool, they're vegetables, and they will tolerate some frost. Another thing that doesn't work for onions is just grabbing any old onion seed, no matter where you live, and just throwing them in your 6-packs. You need to plant the right onion type depending on where you live. So northern gardeners will want to plant long day onions because they have longer hours of daylight in the summertime. Southern gardeners like me here in Southern California will plant short day onion varieties. Our days are much shorter than the northern gardeners. If you live somewhere in between in the middle latitudes of the US, you can plant what's called intermediate or day neutral onions, which will do well in those areas. Or if you don't want to worry about all that, just plant bunching onions, which you can grow just about anywhere. They're like a smaller, more like a green onion type variety. So check the type of onion that you're growing, plant the right variety according to where you live, and go back and watch our onion video for a lot more details on that. Plant them early, and then you're sure to have a lot of onions to harvest. That's what really works best for onions. Can't wait to eat these beets and carrots tonight over the arugula that I harvested a little bit earlier in the video. I know it's a lot of information here, but hopefully it helped you solve some of the problems you've been having with these vegetables. You can always go back and watch the parts that you need to. As always, thanks so much for watching. See you on the next video.